Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and with me this week, as he will be starting today on most Thursdays all throughout the baseball season, is Eric Garfield of Florida Prospect Reports. He's going to be doing some stuff for Press Box, both video and a little bit of writing for us. Eric, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm anticipating some good baseball conversation as we get closer to the season. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Let me get a couple of points of business out of the way that help
Okay.
pay the bills. I have a question. What company has the expertise and technology to make your home substantially more energy efficient, comfortable, and even virus free? Well, that would be our friends at AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com. And if you're getting ready to bet on this Saturday's NFL playoff games or any of the slew of college basketball games, NBA games, NHL games, and you are looking for a provider, think no further than Superbook Sports. They are the most trusted name in Vegas. They've been around for years, and now you can use promo code Stan Charles 23, which you'll see right there, and get their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 by using promo code Stan Charles 23 or Glenn Clark 23. All one word with no spaces. Don't miss out this season. Win some money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, one of the things we try and do when it comes to talking about Oriole prospects is cut out the gambling and guessing. And I bring in a young friend of mine who's become quite the expert on Oriole prospects. And I start today with a notion that we're just about at February 1st. I know it's January 19th, but we're just about 2 weeks away from spring training starting. No giant trade has been made. So this Norfolk team that won the AAA crown last year, might they even be better this year than they were last year, and maybe the best Oriole AAA team in the history of the organization?
Anything is possible. Last year was a true team of destiny with a lot of prospects hitting what appeared to be their ceiling for where they were in development. But this year, they're going to be a year more experienced, a year older. You have to think a year better. However, for all those circumstances to line up, for manager Buck Britton to guess right all the time, really, that's how they won the AAA championship. So I understand how that can be a thought, but for me to think that every one of those things is going to occur once again like it did last year, it's hard for me to see. They're still going to be good no matter what, but that good, even with all the
Well,
prospects, all the names getting
keep
better.
in mind all the names we'll go through on the position player wise. Won't their pitching be a little stronger with Cade Povich
Right.
starting the season? Seth Johnson joining them sometime, maybe mid-May, and Chase McDermott being part of the rotation. Couldn't the pitching even be stronger?
I would actually expect that the pitching will be an entire tier better.
Yep.
Povich at 23, McDermott and Armbruster going from 25 into 26. So, the way prospect people look at it, that's almost like the final stage of their preparation before the majors. So I would expect them to be knocking very, very hard on the MLB door, those three in particular.
Eric, before we dig into the players, one of
Mm-hmm.
the most interesting moves the Orioles made during the offseason was taking a guy that they had fired a major league pitching coach a couple of years ago, Doug Brocal, because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want to lose Chris Holt. And he did, by all accounts, an exceptional job at the major league level.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that they wanted him to go back and work with the minor leagues, is that a little bit of an indictment on the fact that those that were in positions weren't getting the development touches done with pitchers, and the fact that acquiring pitching, either trades or free agents, is so expensive that the best chance you have at getting value is getting the maximum out of your own pitchers.
Yeah, yes, it is. However, one thing that's noticeably different since Elias and Maydal have taken over, there's a willingness in every single way to accentuate the positive. So there's something about Brocale that they liked. Maybe he's a great communicator. Maybe his
Well, now
plans.
Brocale's gone. Holt, they let go of Brocale, brought Holt in to be the major league pitching coach, and now 2 years later, they're having Holt go back and work with the minor leaguers, and they're
Right,
bringing in an entirely new pitching coach who used to work under Chris Holt in Houston.
right. I said the
Yeah,
wrong name. So
yeah,
it's probably that Holt is excellent at writing a plan, communicating a plan, and executing a plan. And now it's time for him to use that skill on the 23 to 26 year olds instead of the veterans. Yeah, I think your question is very reasonable. But again, if you're a winning organization, you do not necessarily look at that as a demotion. You look at it as we're going to use your skills with a different group now.
yeah, and a group that, frankly, with the cost of pitching, what it is in terms of we're looking at what it would cost to sign, say, a Nate Snell, a Snell, or Jordan Montgomery, or trade for them. The price is so exorbitant that, again, I get back to Seth Johnson, Armbruster, McDermott, Povich. Those are the guys now we really need to work on, and we
Yep.
trust somebody else that's worked under Chris Holt to work with the major league pitching staff.
Well, it's a different way. Maybe they might not be making a quote unquote splash, but those splash moves happened a couple years ago, acquiring Johnson and acquiring
Yeah,
McDermott. Now you have to make an impact move,
yeah,
turn them into something that's usable. You and I and everybody that follows this team knows we're not signing Garrett Cole. We're not signing Blake Snell. So you're going to have to make a pitching impact some other way. If this is it and it happens, we'll be quite satisfied.
that was my point about that, because I think it's pretty clear that they really think Holt's real strength is developing young pitchers, and that's something that they're missing right now from some other people. It's not a knock on people; it's
Right.
just that Holt is very good at it. Um, and Chris Holt will, by the way, still be the organizational head pitching coach, so he can come up and work with a Grayson Rodriguez or Kyle Bradish if they stumble out of the gate. So it's not like he's gone, but I
Right.
think his main focus is going to be on putting the finishing touches on, as you say, these 22 to 25-year-olds that they have in the organization.
An important thing to remember about Holt and his resume slash experience before he got into baseball, he was an educator of young athletes. So it's not crazy to think that this is a skill set he has
Yeah,
maintained even with working with 30-year-old millionaires. This is basically who he is.
yeah. Excellent point. Excellent point.
Thank you.
Getting back to this roster of starters, let's get the 8,000 pound elephant out of the room. You and I have discussed off the air and on the air last week on Glenn's show. It seemed pretty obvious, not obvious, but it seemed that Mike Elias was being pretty transparent back at the winter baseball meetings when he said there's a real possibility Jackson Holiday will make this team coming out of spring training. We've gone backwards and forwards on it. And I know last week you sort of thought still needed a little polish, but now you've come around to thinking he's got a real good chance, unless he collapses during spring training, that he's got a real strong chance to make the team.
I have changed my thinking slightly.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that for development purposes, that polish is necessary, but I'm quite confident that he's going to get it at the major league level starting when spring training ends. I thought maybe he'd see an April's worth of
Hmm.
series at Norfolk, but now I'm thinking that that's not going to happen. And when camp breaks, his minor league career is essentially done. And that is the way that the Orioles, their PR department, and everybody involved with the holiday publicity campaign, that's how they're going to make a splash. Their number one pick, who's the number one prospect, is going to start the season with the big club, not with the minor league club. And I think a lot of the fans that have been waiting for something to happen, that might satisfy their sense of anxiety or anticipation.
Yeah. Well, we're watching the teams around us, and not that I'm afraid of them, but the Yankees are getting a little bit better.
Yep, they look good.
Toronto signed this pitcher, Yariel Rodriguez, who sounds like a really interesting guy.
Yep.
Boston has made a couple moves. Tampa is going to be tough. So we're watching the teams around us get a little bit better, and we haven't seen us do anything other than replace Felix Bautista with a guy who's frankly about 80% of Bautista, 75%, and that's Craig Kimbrell. Nice move, but we'd like to see a couple other touches. And I agree with you. Holiday starting with the big club is a big move. How much do you think this new rule that went into place over the last couple of years, that if he would win Rookie of the Year, the Orioles get another pick out of a sandwich pick in the first round for having the Rookie of the Year?
My opinion is that is an outstanding rule and a way that can come closer to encouraging balance competitively and
Yep.
discouraging service time manipulation, which I'm very much against. Let's first of all, they're going to get it very soon. They're going to get that pick very soon because we're going to have last year's Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year,
So yeah,
right?
I think at these meetings there is a distinct possibility someone speaking up and saying, hey, this guy might actually be the best of the rookie crop, and look what happens for us if he is. So I don't know if that's a chief factor, but if they're ignoring it, they're ignoring something that's pretty big, and it doesn't seem like these are the kind of people we're talking about. So yeah, Jackson Holiday wins Rookie of the Year. It works for him and it works for the organization.
No question about it. And I agree with you. It's a great way to end the really very obvious tanking that goes on to
Yep.
get picks. Now you have a motivation to play your best players, even if they're not going to make the difference between you finishing fifth or first. But you're going to get something. There's a motivation there.
One thing, growing up as a fan in the 80s and 90s, that I've always looked at these organizations and everybody's calling them smart. The people that run their front offices are brilliant. Well, why aren't you playing the best players consistently? Because they're 19, because they're 21. It's never made sense to me. And this is kind of a way to get back towards that concept of if you're ready, you're playing at the highest level.
I agree with you totally. So it gets me back to the sort of the overriding point that I wanted to discuss today, and
Okay.
that is this roster at AAA, barring a trade. And I still think I wrote a column that just released today on PressBoxOnline.com that Mike Elias is in the waiting game now. He's been talking and working the teams that he wants to do business with,
Yep.
and now it's up to one of them to get realistic and not really try and get overplay their hand. I still think the Marlins are that team. I think Chris Getz has overplayed his hand tremendously with the White Sox by trying
Yep.
to make a career out of one trade. Um, but this club, let's go by positions. It looks to me like Connor Norby would probably start the season at second base, correct?
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. However, in I don't want to. It's not in a pinch, but these are 5 game series. So let's say 3 games at second, 2 games in left field. The
Okay.
organization really like. I have so
They
many
like him in
highlights
the
of him.
outfield. Yeah.
So many highlights of him making sliding catches in foul territory, popping up and throwing to a base with no bounce. It's a weird combination of skills, but he's almost just as clean and trustworthy a defender as a left fielder as he is at second. But we can call him the starting second baseman because that's what he is.
Starting shortstop, again, barring a trade, would be Joey Ortiz, who you
Yep,
would say is major league ready, wouldn't you?
absolutely. I'm not so sure about his bat. I think he's shown enough, but his glove is unquestionably among the best on planet Earth at playing defense between second and third base. So I guess it's a big advantage in the minors to have somebody that pitchers can have faith in behind them.
Third base, and I'm leaving first base open right now. Is third base where you think they'll play Kobe Mayo, or do you think there's the possibility that he slots over at first base to be ready if a Mountcastle trade or a decision to somehow part company with Mountcastle were to take place at some point in time? That's how good organizations do it. When you start to get a Mountcastle who might earn 12 million next year, and you can move Mayo who's going to make a million, it seems like a simple business. Or do they like Mayo enough at third or outfield that that's where he'd slot in?
Outfield, he's yet to get his practice reps in, so I don't know. It's hard for me to gauge how much they like him at a position other than watching his usage rate. But similar to Norby, mostly at second, a little at left. He's going to be mostly at third, but definitely a little at first to keep the corner depth chart full of talent. And like you outlined, to be ready in case an injury or a transaction above him happens. They love him for his bat. That I know, and that's what they should love him for.
Now they loved him when they drafted him
Yep.
and paid overslot for him.
Yep.
How much more do they love him now than they did 2 years ago?
Well, I mean,
I mean, he's been off the charts, hasn't
he's shown so many things on and off the field. He's grown physically. He's taken leadership seriously. He was big and tall. Now he's very muscular all the way through. And on the field, his the few percentage wise bad at bats he had early have come way down, and now they're ending up in walks. So he's eliminated the nitpick type things from his game. I mean, he is as ready as any high school pick years later I've seen has been, and I love him at third base because of his arm and his quickness and his hands. But I certainly understand if the organization wants him at first to be ready to bat fourth or fifth.
he? Hey, we're going to take a time out now to tell folks about the Costas Inn. And then when we get back, Eric, and we're not really going anywhere when we're doing a Zoom like this, I'm just going to be talking. But I do want to look into that outfield, how you see the outfield at
Okay.
Norfolk being this year, and who you think will make the big club out of guys like Stowers, Kerstad, and Colton Cowser. All right, we'll
Okay.
talk more about that in just a minute. Uh, the Costas Inn, one of my favorite places. One of the things I love about them, they're always community oriented. They're always on top of things. And Petrie and Topolos made a point of being at our little event the other night where we announced the creation of Goose Flight's Lager beer. And Pete wanted in on this because the folks that are going to distribute it are Glory Days Grill and the Guilford Brewing Hall down there where we did the event. Those are the two places you can get it, but you can also get either a can of beer, lager, the Goose Flights lager at the bar, or you can buy a 6 pack uh, at at the Costas Inn. Remember, $1.98 of every transaction, every can is going to go to Goose Flights, the mission that his daughter and son are running right now. They're flying people that need critically medical care, non-critical medical care. They need travel, and Goose Flights does that. And the Saragusa family is keeping Tony's dream alive of this aviation company for mercy. and we're proud to play a little bit of a part on that. Costas Inn, located 4100 North Point Boulevard. You know them for the crabs. You know them for the crab cakes. You know the crab soup's fantastic. The nightly specials, Monday through Friday, are fabulous. But remember the Costas Inn, because they always are looking to give back to the community. And again, you purchase can or six pack Goose Flight's lager at the Costas Inn. All right. Back with Eric Garfield talking Oriole prospects as we're just about 3 weeks away from spring training starting, 3.5 weeks. Eric, we've sort of done the infield. I left first base because I don't have an out and out name. I know we had that kid Josh Lester last year, but I don't think he's going to be back next year. So maybe Norby plays it a little bit. Maybe there's another prospect that I'm not thinking of. But the outfield, there's a lot of names there, starting with Ryan McKenna, starting with Kyle Stowers, starting with Colton Cowser, Heston Kerstedt. Who's going to make the big club and who's going to be still manning the outfield positions down there at AAA?
That's a good question. And as of right now, it's relatively unclear. This is what I like to look at when the players report for camps and I can watch. Just randomly guessing before that, I'm gonna think that Kerstedt up, Cowser down, McKenna up, Stowers down.
Okay.
Just to start the series. But there's also Sam Hilliard, who they recently signed. And
Yeah, I'm
there's
wondering. I think there's a real pitch battle between Hilly. I don't know a lot about him, but I don't think it's just an accident that they signed him.
no.
So I think he and McKenna will battle for a position. And they know one thing about McKenna: if he plays AAA, he'll play every day just about, and he'll produce there and be ready in case the big club does need him.
Okay, and here's potentially another scenario. McKenna's mad about the idea of competition with Hilliard at all. He produces at a higher level and is the club's fourth outfielder or the Orioles
Yeah,
fourth outfielder or a more motivated bench player than he was last year
quite possible.
when he was not horrific. He wasn't a zero. But Stan, I looked up Hilliard's stats preparing for this.
Yeah.
They are in no way positive. He has strikeout rates over 30 and
Okay.
27 when they're good, walk rates under 8. So I
So do
was like,
you
oh,
so
well, I
can
guess
you scratch do you scratch your head then at the acquisition? And again, it was not like they traded a prospect for him. They signed him. He's a bit of a veteran. Does he steal bases? Is he
he
a
does not.
left-handed hitter? Is he
He
a
does not.
left-handed?
He doesn't steal. So is it a hard? It's baseball. So if he doesn't do what I said and make McKenna a little angrier slash
Yeah,
better, then
then he's
they'll
not doing his
just
job.
then right. Or and if he's still not doing his job, he gets to keep it. He'll just be doing it at Norfolk instead of MLB. I think that's a very probable scenario. And if none of it happens, they just they
Yeah,
just
just
cut him.
release. Yeah, they
Right.
cut him. No question about it. Hey, you're kind of getting new at this, but you're extremely knowledgeable in a lot of the things. The finesse about understanding the psychology of your players, Norby, Ortiz, and Stowers. How much is going back to AAA to do it again? Is it motivation or is it frustration and you're sort of angry, which
Okay.
doesn't do you a bit of good unless it makes you a better player. But what do you think happens to some of these guys that are saying, what do I have to do to get my chance?
This is one of the most interesting aspects of what I like to look at. A basketball player last night had a great game, 23 points, and I wrote to him afterwards. You controlled your execution and your aggression. You balanced it absolutely perfectly. That was the best thing you did. Now, these guys who are drafted high, have some cachet, have some money, now they're in the same competitive environment they were in as teenagers or middle teenagers. And for some athletes, it takes away their focus or their ability to execute. Now they're kind of being tested. I guarantee you that Joey Ortiz does not want to go back to the minors, or Kobe Mayo, or any of these guys, or Stowers. They've got to take, some of them have got a taste of what the higher level is like, what the days and the meal money and stuff like that is like. This is a way to continually test them and to find out who they really are. There's advantages in that, and there's a lot of disadvantages in that too. So it's up to the scouts and the evaluators to see who is the real Connor Norby as an athletic performer. We're going to find out. I think the Orioles have a plan of the profiles they draft. Can these people handle adversity? We are going to get a great look at that the first few months of the season. I really look forward to that.
Let me ask you about one player before we go today, because we're not going to figure all this out. But Kyle Stowers, he pre arrived before the Mayos and the
Yep.
Jackson Holidays and even Rutschman. He's been there a little bit. He probably was drafted the same year Rutschman, but
Yep.
he's
2019.
been there for a while. You've seen him play
Yep.
down there in Sarasota. What am I missing? Because I'm not seeing that player at the big league level. Is he pressing too much at the big league level?
No, I don't think it is. But another way to observe athletes and really evaluate and rank them is who can bring the practice or the weight room or the video room to the field and have it influence or raise their level of performance. So far, Kyle Stowers was an Orioles organizational player of the year. So
Yeah.
they saw plenty on the farm to trust. He has not done well at this highest level. So I'm not going to say he's pressing, but he's certainly not adjusting. A lot of people look at his swing and what happens when he's in swing, how violent and uncoordinated it seems. I don't see it that way, but maybe that's an explanation for why
Yeah,
it
I
hasn't
see an
happened yet.
awful lot of swing and miss with him. It's
I,
just it's
right.
frustrating because to me, I agree with you. They knew what they were drafting.
Yep.
They knew he had this volatility to his swing, but I think they felt he'd be in better control of it at this point.
Watching him in drills when they come to camp every year, he's almost like the leader of his drills group. Even with prospects and players that are sometimes older than him, he's always had that air of, let me do it first, let me show you, and the rest of you guys follow in line. So I would not cancel anything out on Stowers. Sometimes, we watch it a trillion times. It
Yep.
just takes a little bit later in the game for prospects to click. So I'm very biased towards Orioles prospects, but I still think have some faith in Stowers. It's going to happen for him.
All right. He's Eric Garfield. He's going to be joining me just about every Thursday. We're going to try and do it at 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This is a good time for me. So probably be a lot of them at 4 o'clock. If you miss them live, they're going to be always in the video department on pressboxonline.com, or you look under my columns, they'll be there. Eric Garfield, thank you very much, and we'll talk next Thursday. All right.
Anytime. I look forward to it, Stan. Thank you.
Okay. That does it for today's show. Again, we thank our friends at AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning, Superbook Sports, where they offer the $250 first bet bonus match, win or lose, at Superbook Sports. Give them a try. And also by the Costas Inn, where you can also purchase the Goose Flights lager. All right, that does it for me. I'll be back Monday with Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson. Have a great weekend and go Ravens. Bye.